All right, thanks everyone for coming. So, I'm doing a little different today. Normally, when I do this, I don't have, it's just me and the screen, and I don't have this edit up like this, but um, I'm going to be doing it because I want to read directly through the whistleblower complaint with you. So, and forgive me if you might see me click back and forth to my YouTube live stream, the actual, like you're seeing now, and back to this whistleblower complaint going back and forth. So, that's what I'm going to be doing. But I'll get started here in just a second. Okay, looks like everything's good. Okay, so today we got the whistleblower complaint. Yesterday, you can check out my live stream. I did 2 hour live stream that talked specifically about the transcript and the things we knew about that. And I did a video particularly going through the transcript. Today, I'm going to be doing a video going directly through the whistleblower complaint. Now, before I start, there's a couple things to remember about this complaint. The things that are being alleged in this complaint, we already know more than the person that was writing it. And the reason for that is the person who made this complaint only had secondhand knowledge. So, as you'll see as I go through it, they're saying specifically, well, I heard other officials discuss this, and so this is why I think it was problematic. But since we've actually seen the transcript, we can tell better than this whistleblower whether or not that what they're saying is accurate. And that's going to be important for a couple things, because remember, when the transcript came out yesterday, there were still people shouting, well, we need to see the entire whistleblower complaint. But why? If the whistleblower doesn't have any more information than we have from reading the transcript, then why did we need this complaint? And because this is a gamesmanship that the Democrats are playing. Remember, they advocated for impeachment before they read the complaint, before they read the transcript of the calls. They said already there was enough for impeachment. So it just shows how disingenuous they were. So I wanted to go through this whistleblower complaint because it's then being propped up by the Democrats and the media as, this somehow buttresses some claim. But what qualifications did this whistleblower have that me and you don't? We've seen the transcript of the call. The whistleblower, while they're writing this complaint, has not seen the transcript of the call. So there is no way whatsoever that this further buttresses Democratic claims that, this must prove something. But they pretend it does. They pretend like this person has some sort of knowledge that me and you don't have. And they don't. They admit the entire way through this that they didn't even hear the call that was alleged. So I got the complaint up here, and I'm going to read it, and I'll be taking time to pause to give my thoughts on what I think of it. And then afterwards, I'll kind of make my beautiful face full screen, and we'll talk a little bit about how this is being spun today in the committee hearing and exactly what's going on. So let me check the time I'm at here. 2:45. Let me begin. We'll just say 3 minutes. That's fine. Let me begin. So, okay. Let's start reading. It says, Dear Chairman Barr and Chairman Schiff, I'm reporting an urgent concern in accordance with the procedures outlined in 50 USC. The letter is unclassified when separated from the attachment. In the course of my official duties, I've received information from multiple U.S. government officials that the President of the United States is using the powers of his office to solicit interference from a foreign country in the 2020 election. Now, run right out of the gate. There's 2 things about this first sentence that you need to know. One, it's not him saying that he personally has seen this. He's saying, I've heard from other people. But that's nonsense. I've heard from other people that Barack Obama was threatening the United States and was trying to give terrorists money. That's why he flew pallets of cash, because he hates the United States. That doesn't make me a whistleblower, because I've heard that from people. A whistleblower is someone who has direct evidence of possible corruption and brings that evidence forth. That's not hearsay. You heard other people complain about policies you don't like, and so then you come forth. That's not being a whistleblower. The second thing they say is that the President of the U.S. is using the power of his office to solicit interference from a foreign country in the 2020 election. But that's an opinion. We saw the transcript. There's nothing in there that even mentions the 2020 election. He's talking about wanting to investigate possible corruption and interference into the 2016 election. Now, keep in mind, this is the exact same thing that we've been told by Democrats for 3 years, that we could leave no stone unturned, that we have to cooperate with everyone. Any potential witness, whether they be foreign or domestic, we need to get evidence from, because foreign interference was such a... we were attacked by the Russians and other foreign interference, and it benefited Donald Trump. And no stone must be unturned. Yet here, they're saying that amounts to foreign influence for the 2020 election. So can't we say the same of the Democrats then? Their entire Mueller investigation was just an attempt to win the 2020 election? But of course the Democrats don't say it. They say, no, that foreign interference was important. We needed to look at it. So this person is just giving their opinion that this is about election meddling, but there's no proof of that. That's just their opinion. Anybody in the intelligence agencies could say anytime that an executive branch person presses for any sort of investigation that, they're seeking to meddle to help their team. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Right out of the gate, you could tell the person writing this is incredibly partisan. Now, just for FYI, the DNI and the DOJ ruled that this person had a partisan influence. In other words, they were biased against Trump. That's already been ruled. We know that this person's hired lawyers that have worked with Clinton. So we know that this is someone coming from a partisan nature. And the language that they use is almost directly repeated by people like Adam Schiff before this complaint even came out. But let's continue. This interference includes, among other things, pressuring a foreign country to investigate one of the president's main domestic political rivals. Okay, two things. One, we know that's what Barack Obama and his intel agencies were doing the entire time that they were working with foreigners, whether it be from the United Kingdom, from Australia, from the Ukraine itself, from any other foreign country, when they were trying to get dirt on Manafort, and they were trying to get dirt on Carter Page, because they had an investigation ongoing, and they were trying to get evidence from these foreign countries. So would this person have blown the whistle on that? It looks like Obama is trying to get direct evidence against one of his main rivals, Donald Trump. Weird that they didn't blow the whistle on that. Secondly, never forget that 3 Democrats in May of 2018, that's been public knowledge since then, sent a letter to Ukraine threatening them, saying that they would lose the favor of the Democrats if they didn't continue to cooperate with the Mueller investigation into the investigation of Donald Trump. So doesn't that prove that the Democrats did exactly what they're accusing the Republicans of? And it's been public knowledge since 2018. Do you remember any Democrats screaming impeachment about those senators, Democratic senators, Leahy, Durbin, and Menendez's letter? Do you remember that? Do you remember the media that was reporting on that letter? Do you remember calling for their impeachment? Do you even hear any Republicans call for impeachment over that letter? No, because it's normal procedural behavior for people that are involved in the course of investigations to be asking foreign groups to cooperate with the United States in that, regardless if it's about your political opponent or not. The Democrats are trying to criminalize. On one hand, they say we need to investigate all election interference. On the other hand, they say if Trump's trying to investigate interference that could have helped the Democrats, that's a crime and he needs to be impeached. He goes on. The president's personal lawyer, Mr. Giuliani, is a central figure in the effort. Attorney General Barr appears to be involved as well. That's not true. One, yes, Giuliani was trying to get this evidence, but that's because we know that the Ukraine's been trying to get this evidence to the United States for a long time. And they can't trust people in the intel community. Why? Because of things like this very incident. They can't even have a phone call without it being leaked. So they don't trust the FBI. The same FBI and the same people connected to the Obama administration that the Ukrainians are accusing of improperly influencing one of their investigative agencies, the NABU, and having investigations shut down that could have been problematic for the Democrats. So why would they trust these agencies? Instead, they tried to reach out to the New York Attorney General as well. They didn't take the evidence. They tried to get visas to come to the United States to give the evidence directly towards people. They weren't allowed to have the visas. So they sent their lawyer to talk, their president's lawyer to talk to our president's lawyer. There's nothing shady about that whatsoever. There's nothing criminal about that whatsoever. Trump's personal lawyer is allowed to go around the world and ask about evidence to anything he wants. That's not a crime. And Barr, he says Barr was involved in... You read the transcript for yourself. He just says, hey, I would like you to give information to Barr. How does that make Barr somehow involved in this? Remember, if you look at this, it seems like this whistleblower complaint was written by Adam Schiff. I'm not saying it was, but written with someone who's aligned with him for sure. And it's geared to be strategic in that it's a defense and it's a distraction from the IG report that'll be coming out. The same way they had to get Sessions to recuse himself because they knew, if not, the fact that the Mueller investigation was a witch hunt would be outed. So they needed their point man Rosenstein to be in charge of it. It's the same here. Now, I have my reservations about Barr and whether or not he will actually bring charges. But once more, we see this is them setting up. Well, Barr should have to recuse himself. Barr should have to recuse himself from everything involving the Ukraine. So you can't look into Ukrainian interference for the Democrats. Barr can't do it. That's what they're trying to set up, and it's ridiculous. So we already know right out of the gate, in the first paragraph, that this whistleblower has inaccurate information. Right out of the gate. Over the past 4 months, more than half a dozen U.S. officials have informed me of various facts related to this effort. Okay, much as me and other people have been saying, the intel agencies are out to get Trump. Remember Chuck Schumer saying they'll find the most powerful elected leader in the world has to be afraid of unelected bureaucrats because if you criticize them, they'll find 6 ways from Sunday of getting back at you. People like me were laughed at. People like Trump were laughed at when he said the intelligence agencies are after him. No, that's not true. No, they wouldn't wiretap him or people connected to him. No, they're not after him. Over and over, we see that that's the case. Strzok, Page, McCabe, Comey, Brennan, Clapper. Now we have a gaggle of intel officials all discussing how they're unhappy with Trump's policies. Why didn't any of these dozen officials blow the whistle then and come forward? They apparently had direct knowledge of what Trump was saying instead of secondhand knowledge. So this person hears some gossip around the water cooler and decides, I don't like this gossip, so I'm going to be a whistleblower? That's all it takes now? Moving on. The information provided herein was relayed to me in the course of an official interagency business. It is routine for U.S. officials with responsibility for a particular regional or functional portfolio to share information with one another in order to inform policymaking analysis. I was not a direct witness to most of the events described. Okay. Then how is what this person's saying relevant whatsoever? Keep in mind, we are now direct witnesses in that we've read the transcript of the phone call. So everything that he's going to say from here on out, we know more than him because we've seen the transcript, or her. So why don't you judge for yourself just how accurate this whistleblower complaint was? And keep in mind, this was used in conjunction, because I say this all the time, the establishment Democrats control all of our cultural institutions of power. The mainstream media, academia, the entertainment industry, Silicon Valley. So this person just hearing rumors is enough to grind our country to a halt, to start impeachment proceedings before the transcript was even released, to have over 200 Democrats say that this was reason to impeach, to have all the media say, yes, we agree, reason to impeach, all because this guy heard rumors. This guy's reporting the same rumors that Adam Schiff was back in August. Adam Schiff tweeted like 12 days before this official whistleblower complaint. Oh, Trump's sending Giuliani to find dirt on Democrats from the Ukraine. Yeah, okay. That's all this person's saying. Basically, he might as well be saying, I heard Adam Schiff say this was bad. And so that's reason to start this whole investigation, which led to the unprecedented process of the president having to release a transcript of a call he had with a foreign leader, which will harm U.S. national security in the future because no foreign leader will ever want to disclose anything to a president in the future because they know all it takes is some Democrats that are partisan in the intel community go, I don't like this. I'm going to blow the whistle. That's what we have here. That's the big story. He wasn't a direct witness. Okay, moving on. He finds his colleagues' accounts of these events to be credible because in almost all cases, multiple officials recounted the patterns that were consistent with one another. In addition, a variety of information considered with these private accounts has been reported publicly. Okay, if the information's public, what's the need for an investigation and a whistleblower? See, the Democrats use this. They say, they're going to try to say, this whistleblower, he has super inside knowledge, which proves we need to investigate all of his claims. But then the whistleblower says, I got all my knowledge from secondhand sources, including people in the Democratic Party and media members. So it's circular reasoning. The media says the whistleblower said this, it must be true. And the whistleblower says, I know this is true because I read it in the media. When we talk about a corrupt media, people say, no big deal. They've said it for years. That's one of the greatest things about Trump's election, that he finally outed the media for the corrupt assets that they are. But it's not just that they're lying to the American people, which they are. But if you listen to the media, they tell you themselves how important a free press is. How it's important to a democracy. It's important to hold truth to power. It's just they're not that. They're hacks. They're just mouthpieces for the Democratic establishment, 95% of them. Now we know that's 2 incidents lately that we've seen that have resulted in massive investigations into Trump, designed to stymie his administration. both relying heavily on journalist reports. So the FISA warrant, remember? Isikoff at Yahoo News, he backed up Christopher Steele's reporting. Only what they didn't tell you was, Isikoff's source was Christopher Steele. So they relied to spy on an American citizen connected to a presidential campaign. They relied on reports from the mainstream media. The same is true here. A whistleblower who right out of the gate says, I didn't hear any of this. I just heard other people talk about it. Plus, it's been reported in the news. So now, the news that is corrupt is being used to influence investigations into the president. Now's a good time to talk about the corrupt media. 3 times they lied horribly yesterday alone. 3 times in one day. Okay? Let's go through what they said. Keep in mind, these are the groups that are being used. Their information is being considered credible and important enough to investigate the President of the United States and have these impeachment hearings. Right? Here's what they did yesterday 3 times. I have them written down here. 1, they said that the gentleman that just testified, the Director of National Intelligence, McGuire, threatened to resign if he wasn't allowed to speak to Congress. McGuire said repeatedly, that is a lie. I have never threatened to resign over anything. But they spread that lie because they made it seem like, Trump wasn't going to let the truth come out. And it took this person standing up to Trump who was being corrupt to say, no, I'll resign if I'm not allowed to talk to the Congress. That was a lie used to smear Trump. Number 2, CNN had a reporter, Katie Turn. They edited out 540 words of the transcript to make it read as if Trump had said, I have a favor to ask of you. Will you investigate Joe Biden? Instead, what Trump said was, I have a favor. Will you investigate corruption and meddling into the 2016 election from Ukrainians through CrowdStrike and other places? That's exactly what the Trump administration's been asking favors of all these places, or the Obama administration. It wanted a favor. It wanted to share evidence of possible corruption of election interference. Now all of a sudden it's a criminal act when Trump asked for that? So because that doesn't look as bad for Trump, what they did was they edited out the rest of that paragraph that Trump spoke. Then they edited out the entire next paragraph that the Ukrainian president responds to him. And then they finally get to the 3rd paragraph where he mentions Biden. So they just cut out all that middle section and made it seem like Trump was saying, I have a favor, will you investigate Joe Biden? That's lie number 2. These agencies, these media that are being used as credible information to investigate Donald Trump. Lie number 2. Lie number 3. And this lie it's like a 10-part lie. So Axios and CBS and ABC and The Hill, I go to The Hill a lot. It's left of center, but John Solomon's the best reporter we have in this country right now, as I'll get to later, and he worked at The Hill, though he is leaving. But anyways, their headline yesterday, The Hill, was this. Ukrainian official says that talking about Biden was precondition for a conversation between Trump and the Ukrainian president. In other words, he's saying that the argument is officials in Ukraine knew that Trump would never talk to their administration unless they discussed reopening the Biden case. That's what the story was reported. Seems pretty damning, right? I mean, they said there was going to be a quid pro quo, and then there wasn't. The transcript showed there wasn't. Then they implied there was one, but they couldn't get away with that. So now it's like they have to say, the Ukraine knew that this was actually a quid pro quo. Even though the Ukrainian president and foreign minister have came out and said, no, we didn't feel pressured whatsoever. That's just not true. That's not the way it went down. Well, here's someone that's an official that's saying, yes, secretly, it did happen that way. Only there's several problems. One was the problem I pointed out yesterday before the problems the rest of the media pointed out. This official was a man by the name of Leshenko. Okay? Now, not to be confused with Lutsenko, this man was named Leshenko, and he was an official that was in the Ukraine. He is the very same official that was under investigation because he was the point man for leaking illegal material to the Democrats in the 2016 election. For those of you who don't know the story, Paul Manafort, who was Trump's campaign manager at the time, was under investigation because he had connections to oligarchs in the Ukraine. Similarly to how Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, was also under the investigation for having connections to Russian oligarchs. So while this investigation was ongoing, this corrupt administrator, Leshenko, got details of that and leaked it to the DNC. The DNC then used their allies in the press to leak that information, which resulted in Paul Manafort getting kicked out of being a campaign manager. So that was directly used, and evidence of an ongoing investigation that was not supposed to be released was used as foreign influence because the Democrats went to the Ukraine and said, give us dirt on Trump. They gave them the dirt. The Democrats then released that dirt to the press, which was then used to smear Donald Trump. The exact thing they accused Trump of doing with Russia. The exact thing. And Leshenko was the guy in the Ukraine that did it. So all of these reports reporting about, oh, this official, is saying that Trump's a really bad dude, fails to take into account, fails to mention one time, by the way, this is the very guy that's under investigating. The guy that Trump wants to investigate and is talking about investigating. So imagine if Trump said, hey, I think Rob Knorr's a bad guy. And then I came out and did a video and was like, I think Trump's a bad guy. And the media was like, oh, an American citizen says Trump's a bad guy. Well, yeah, they leave out the fact that Trump's encouraging the investigation of me, so I have reason to be partisan against Trump. They just let that out. And even if you say, well, okay, but that's not proof that Leshenko was lying or wasn't telling the truth, that's absolutely true. But a credible media outlet would include that relevant information. You go back and you watch the video I did here like 3 days ago that talked about the two organizations within the Ukraine that were being cited over and over again cyclically by all these U.S. outlets claiming that it proved that Joe Biden never did anything wrong. Both of them were under investigation for corruptly helping the Obama administration. Yet the media outlets are reporting on these people as if they're unbiased, objective people. They're not. Again, that doesn't mean that they're lying. I'm not saying that. But a free press would give you that information. They wouldn't hide the fact that, oh, by the way, this person's actually under investigation for a crime related exactly to the incident they're speaking on. So that was, but the other lie about Leshenko, so that was bad enough. But then it gets even worse. Because it turns out, as I mentioned last night as well, before I saw the media talking about this, Leshenko isn't even in the Ukrainian government anymore. He was let go. At the time that the conversation between Trump and Zelensky, the president of the Ukraine, occurred, Leshenko was not a member of the Ukrainian administration. So why is he uniquely qualified to what the Ukrainian administration knew? He was fired by them. He didn't know anything. That's like saying, well, would we interview and say Scaramucci, who was briefly in Trump's team like a year and a half ago? Well, Scaramucci said that, everybody knew last week what Trump's campaign was talking about, or what Trump's administration was talking about. You're not in the administration. He has no more access than me or you. It's the same with this Leshenko character. And then the cherry on top of the whole story is Leshenko actually came out today and said, yeah, I never said that. So they reported that this guy said that basically Trump was offering a quid pro quo and the Ukraine knew it. They left out the fact that this guy was basically the one that they're discussing investigating as part of this investigation into 2016 election interference. They left out the fact that he's not even in the administration. And the very person that we're talking about says, I didn't say it anyways. That was yesterday. One day. And we see those three lies. Now that's the same media that's going to be used by this whistleblower when the whistleblower goes, well, I heard that Trump's corrupt and he's trying to get the Ukrainians to meddle in the 2020 election. And, the New York Times says so I knew that it must be true. That's ridiculous. Okay, let's move on. I'm deeply concerned that the actions described below constitute a serious or flagrant problem, abuse, or violation of law or executive order. That, quote, does not include differences of opinions concerning public policy matters, quote, consistent with the definition of an urgent concern. I'm therefore fulfilling my duty to report this information through proper legal channels to the relevant authorities. Okay, so what he's quoting there is language specifically in 50 U.S.C. 3033, okay? That's what this person's quoting. But think of what he says. He's not a direct witness. He just heard other people talking. He heard other people say some things, and he thought it was a serious problem and an abuse of executive order that it doesn't include differences of opinion concerning policy matters, and it's of an urgent concern. But he didn't directly hear anything. Now you tell me right now why that doesn't mean that all of us that had a problem with the Obama administration or with the intel community or with the Hillary Why we don't fit the exact same definition of a whistleblower. I also, about the Obama administration, heard things that I felt constituted a serious or flagrant problem, abuse or violation of law or executive order. I heard that. I've heard things like that from people, and I thought that it does not include differences of opinion concerning public policy matter. I too heard that. I thought him giving pallets of cash to terrorists was a very disturbing thing. I thought that him sending Joe Biden's, giving Joe Biden the authority to extort Ukraine for $1 billion unless they stopped and fired the prosecutor that was investigating his son. I thought that had nothing to do with concerns of public policy matter. I thought that was an urgent concern. Therefore, I would like to fulfill my duty as a whistleblower. So where do I go? That's the precedent that's set, right? I don't need to have direct knowledge. I just had to have heard from people. I read reports on the news, and I've heard from other people that say they have connections inside the intel agencies. So why is my report any different? My whistleblowing any different? Am I going to get my chance to go in front of Congress? Is there going to be an investigation in everyone in the Obama administration and Joe Biden? It seems only fair. I heard that 3 Democratic senators pressured the Ukrainian government to continue to investigate Donald Trump, their political rival. Am I a whistleblower now? Send me in Capitol Hill. Investigate all my allegations, right? I demand whistleblower protection. Oh, no, it's different. It's different when it's this guy. Do you realize how stupid this is? Like, I hope I'm not the only one. The precedent is now set that you don't even have to witness a violation of law yourself to be a whistleblower. All you have to do is say, I heard other people talk about it, and I picked up my New York Times, and they said that there could be a problem, so now I'm a whistleblower. That means that means in perpetuity, presidents or officials can now be investigated. All of classified information can now be released to Congress, to partisans that are against them in Congress. Just because someone heard something that they didn't like. Not directly heard it, but heard rumors. I'm also concerned that these actions pose a risk to U.S. national security and undermine the U.S. government's efforts to deter and counter foreign interference in the U.S. elections. I mean, the irony of this statement is unbelievable on at least 2 levels. One, something that really does affect U.S. national security and undermines our effort and undermines things is the fact that no foreign leader ever will feel comfortable talking to a president, not just Trump, but any president hereafter, because they know that some anonymous official who has third-hand knowledge of the call could theoretically claim to be a whistleblower and get the transcript released. So if you're, say, the president of Egypt, and you're in a tenuous situation where you really need to talk some specific details, and you're saying, like, look, we're having problems with this domestic group, and, we think we could overcome it if we do this, and have a strategic call. Why would they ever want to say that, knowing that that domestic group is going to be able to see the comments of the Ukrainian, or of the Egyptian president, as soon as some Democrat warrants that it needs to be released? No, if I was a foreign leader, I wouldn't talk to the president of the United States candidly. No chance. None at all. It would be like, you know how when they interview like sports stars and everybody knows there's certain things they're supposed to say? They're not supposed to be like, yeah, my coach sucks. They're just like, it was a good game plan. We tried to execute the best. That's exactly how foreign leaders will talk to the president now on the phone. Oh, yes, your country's great. We really like everything in our country. Well, we can't make any promise or anything, but it was great talking to you. Click. No way they're going to talk to him candidly. So that's actually a risk to U.S. national security that this person's claimed to be concerned about. They're concerned about foreign interference in U.S. elections? This entire story is designed to stop Trump and Barr and the Department of Justice and the IG and Huber from investigating potential Ukrainian interference into the 2016 election that benefited the Democrats. Now, there's 2 types of election interference that we could be talking about that would be benefits. One is, it could be interference in the sense that you're digging up dirt in your opponent, or you're starting an investigation into your opponent. That's what they're accusing Trump of doing now, which is ridiculous. We know that's exactly what those 3 Democratic senators did. We know that's exactly what the Obama administration did, trying to get evidence of wrongdoing of people connected to Trump and their crimes. But the idea is, if you get dirt on your opponent, then that's election interference, if a foreigner gives you dirt on your opponent. Now, I've talked about how this is stupid for... By the way, I just want to say something real quick. These double standards, right? We see how there's a double standard here. How this is just like with the Russia situation, right? The Russia investigation. Oh, you can't get dirt on your opponents from Russians. That's criminal. Well, what about Hillary Clinton? No, that was different. Those Kremlin officials were different because she paid for it. Trump didn't pay for it, but she did pay for it. So it's okay. The double standard's nonsense. And my stance the whole time was neither what Trump did nor what Hillary did paying for that dirt was illegal. I don't think it was. If you want to get opposition research from a foreigner, so be it. The illegal part comes when Obama's intelligence agencies didn't verify that material and used it knowing it was paid opposition research from Hillary Clinton to spy on Donald Trump. That's the illegal part of it. Hillary getting the dirt, I don't think that's illegal. The same here. I don't think those 3 senators that wrote the letter to the Ukraine did anything illegal. But I also don't think what Trump did was illegal. Now, if you think what Trump did was illegal, then you certainly think what these senators did was illegal. It's the same thing. Meanwhile, what Trump's trying to do is investigate 2016 election interference that came from the Ukraine. What the Democrats' stance is this follows. No stone must be left unturned when it comes to election interference that possibly could have cost the Democrats the election and helped Donald Trump. We must do everything. Talk to foreign people. Listen to foreign spies. Take dirt from the Kremlin officials seriously. Everything. We have to spy on people connected to Trump's campaign. On and on and on. No stone unturned. Because that's how important the security of our elections are. We can't risk election interference. Oh, but when we're talking about other countries interfering in our election to help the Democrats, not only do we not want to investigate that, but if you try to investigate it, it's a crime yourself. Do you see how insane this is? Which shows you 2 things. One, they're trying to cover up for their own crimes. And second, the whole witch hunt into Trump was garbage from the get-go and they never believed it. Because if they did take election interference seriously, they would be demanding an investigation of Ukraine's election interference. Instead, they're saying it's criminal for Trump to do that. All right, moving on here. Sorry, I keep switching back and forth. I got to keep making sure my stream's still running because I'd be a fool if I'm just sitting here yelling at myself. He says, to the best of my knowledge, the entirety of this statement is unclassified when separated from the classified enclosure. I've endeavored to apply the classification standards outlined in EO 13526 and to separate out the information that I know or have reason to believe is classified for national security purposes. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to think more about this, but it seems that's twice now he's specifically saying, I want this to be unclassified. In other words, I want this to get leaked to the public and it not be a crime. That's how it looks to me. If a classification marking is applied retroactively, I believe it is incumbent upon the classifying authority to explain why such a marking was applied and to which specific information it pertains. In other words, he's saying he knows how the Democrats operate. He knows how Schiff operates. And the allegations within this could be leaked, and then that Schiff could be in trouble for leaking classified information. So he's trying to hedge against that. He wants this leaked. He wants this to get out in the public because this whistleblower is a hack. He's a partisan who's just trying to stymie Donald Trump. He's trying to engage in a coup to get Trump removed. So he wants this information to be made public. So that's what all this garbage about is. Oh, it's unclassified, trust me. Let me check this call real quick, just make sure. Okay, not important. So, first, the 25th of July presidential phone call. Now keep in mind as I go through this, he's already admitted, or she, this whistleblower, that they do not have direct knowledge of the phone call. They didn't hear it. They didn't see the transcript. They just heard about the call from other people that supposedly heard the call. He doesn't even have proof that those people did hear the call. He just knows these people were saying, I heard the call and this is what was said. Unbelievable. But anyways, early in the morning of 25 July, the president spoke by telephone to the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky. I do not know which side initiated the call. This was the first publicly acknowledged call between the two leaders since a brief congratulatory call. Multiple White House officials with direct knowledge of the call informed me that after an initial exchange of pleasantries, the president used the remainder of the call to advance his personal interests. Now, I'm going to stop right here. Remember, the Democrats called for impeachment before they saw this whistleblower's allegation and before they saw the transcript of the call. Now, if I was to say to you, I have heard that there was an improper phone call from Barack Obama, so I'm going to say impeachment. And Obama said, I'm going to release the transcript tomorrow. You can see for yourself what I said. And I still say, nope, impeachment before I see that transcript. You would say I was nuts. But that is exactly what 200-something Democrats did. They called for impeachment before they even saw the transcript, before they even saw the whistleblower allegation. Just based on reports they heard in the news. The same news that I already showed you just yesterday lied 3 times. That's enough for these people to say, get him out, remove Trump. Right? That's what we're saying. Now that the transcript's out, what did I say would happen? That this was the stance of the Democrats. We, the Democratic Party, think that Donald Trump should be impeached for the horrible crime of insert whatever was said in the transcript. I can't believe that some president would do insert whatever was said in the transcript to the American people. It didn't matter. It was just a Mad Lib. Fill in the blank. Whatever it said, yep, that's impeachable. But wait a minute. 3 Democratic senators just did the same thing a year ago. That was different. But what about Obama? He tried to get favors from foreign countries to get investigations into people connected to Trump. That's different. And we have to take this seriously. But now that we know what was in the transcript, let's see what the whistleblower said. Let's see how accurate the whistleblower was. Now remember, the first thing that was reported about this in the Washington Post was the whistleblower said that a promise was made. Did you read the transcript for yourself? Do you see a promise? It's not in there. That was what was said. Remember, it was reported Trump mentioned Biden's name 8 times. Read the transcript. Do you see Trump mention Biden's name 8 times? Nope, me neither. So there wasn't a promise. Biden's name wasn't mentioned 8 times. So it was a lie. The whistleblower who got secondhand information was wrong. Yet still, she's considered a whistleblower that we have to do an investigation about. That means that I could just claim right now wrong information. I could talk to someone that's just like, hey, it turns out that Adam Schiff's office, they had phone calls with foreign leaders and they said they wanted to overthrow the U.S. government. So then we release all of his calls. We have an impeachment investigation into Schiff, and it turns out Schiff never said that. Well, yeah, but there's other shady stuff in here. Moving on. Is that what we really want our politics to be now? So let's see how accurate the whistleblower was. After an initial exchange of pleasantries, the president used the remainder of the call to advance his personal interests. That's not true at all. 1, that would be an opinion because there's the very first thing he's talking about investigating 2016 election interference. Remember, I talked about this yesterday, and I talked about it in my friend Drone Check's live stream today. There are 2 things necessary, and I'm going to do a specific video on this. It's not just the quid pro quo that they're saying. First off, they said that even not a quid pro quo would be a crime, which I've already explained how the Obama administration worked with foreign allies to investigate Trump, so he would be guilty of the same crime. That's commonplace for presidents in the executive branch to do that. So now they're trying to say, well, even though it wasn't a direct quid pro quo, Trump was kind of dog whistling to one. But it's not that a quid pro quo is enough for there to be a crime. If it was, we know through Biden's own words that he threatened to withhold $1 billion unless they fired the prosecutor who happened to be looking into his son's company. So they don't think that's a crime, so it's got to be more than the quid pro quo. And what it does is it goes to intent. And the problem is everyone's assuming, well, with the Democrats as always, unless you could 100% prove intent, then there's not even need for an investigation. But with the Republicans, unless you could 100% prove that there wasn't intent. See, remember that video I did where I talked about the idea of the Democrats becoming the party of removing innocent until proven guilty? They always judge every Republican as guilty until proven innocent. So with them, you have to 100% prove their intent. With the Republicans, you have to 100% prove there wasn't intent. So what do I mean by this? Even though the prosecutor looking into Biden's son was the one that was demanded to be fired, people said, yes, but that wasn't his intent. His intent was to end corruption generally. Well, couldn't you say the same about Trump? Why is he judged to a different standard? He said specifically, there was corruption, there was election interference. Those seem like reasonable things to be investigating. The Democrats told us for 3 years it was the most important thing to be investigating. Yet automatically we assume, no, this was all just for Trump's personal benefit. That's what this person says. That's what this whistleblower says. It couldn't have been to advance the interest of the United States to stop election interference. No, it had to be Trump's personal interest. Does that mean when Obama and his intel community was seeking information on Trump, that it was purely to advance Obama's personal interest? To get rid of Trump, who would have been his chief rival, and ensure the person that Obama wanted, his party member, Hillary, became president? Would this whistleblower have said the same thing then? I'll be interested to see if this whistleblower was actually in the intel community under Obama. Interesting that they didn't blow the whistle on Obama in the same way, huh? And not to mention that there were pleasantries, then there was talk of this stuff, then there were more pleasantries. So just the idea that the remainder of the call was to advance his personal interest is absolute garbage. It's a lie. That's not the truth. Keep in mind, this person has admitted they did not see the transcript. Me and you have seen the transcript, so we know that they're wrong. This is why you don't allow whistleblowers and you don't start investigations after people that say, I heard the evidence says this. That is not a legal standard. That's why you would say, okay, you might find that troubling, but it's not enough reason to investigate. If someone with direct knowledge comes forth and has a legitimate complaint, then we'll look at it. But we're not going to take secondhand knowledge because you might be wrong. You might have heard wrong. I don't know if you knew this, but in Washington, untrue rumors are spread all the time. So we know, one, we already have an example that he's wrong. Next, namely, he sought to pressure the Ukrainian leader to take actions and help the president's 2020 election bid. That is a lie. It doesn't say that anywhere. Never once is the 2020 election mentioned. Now you could say, well, it was inferred. That's garbage. I can make the same statement. Biden directed to try to help the Democrats' 2016 election bid by firing this prosecutor that happened to be looking into his son's company. People say, no, that it was corrupt for other reasons. Again, the double standard by the Democrats. They didn't even want to look into Biden. They keep saying it's a conspiracy theory. How dare anyone bring it up? Remember, this entire whistleblower is about Trump looking into potential crimes. So they're saying it is a crime to look into potential crimes. Do you see how insane this is? Next, according to the White House officials who had direct knowledge of the call, the president pressured Zelensky to 1. Initiate or continue an investigation into the activities of former Vice President Biden and his son Hunter Biden. He didn't pressure him to do that. He said that it would be nice if they looked into it. He was talking about election security first. Why is this? I could make the same statement. President Obama, when talking to foreign leaders, encouraged him to 1. Initiate or continue investigation into the activities of Donald Trump and people connected to him, such as Paul Manafort, Carter Page, George Papadopoulos. We know that's what Obama did, right? So why is this? Just because he said, I heard there was corruption. Here's a bunch of stuff I heard that was corrupt in your country. I would like for you to investigate them. He didn't say, if you don't, you're not getting money. He didn't say you have to do this. He just said, yeah, you should look into this. And by the way, the Ukrainian president said, yes, I agree. 2, to assist in purportedly uncovering the allegations of Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. presidential election originated in Ukraine, with a specific request that the Ukrainian leader locate and turn over servers used by the Democratic National Committee and examined by U.S. cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike, which initially reported the Russian hackers and penetrated the DC's networks in 2016. That is a lie. Nowhere does Trump ever ask for them to hand over servers or anything like that. He asked them to look into CrowdStrike, and he says that there was a Russia witch hunt. There was. There's nothing corrupt about that. He asked them to look into potential interference into the 2016 U.S. election. That is exactly what Obama asked world leaders. He did not ask them to turn over a server. He didn't. That's a lie. And even if he had asked that, what's the matter with that? 3, to meet or speak with 2 people the president named explicitly as personal envoys on these matters. Giuliani and Barr, who the president referred to multiple times. Okay. If you have evidence, give it to my AG or my attorney. What's wrong with that again? The president also praised Ukraine's prosecutor general, Leshenko, and suggested that Mr. Zelensky might want to keep him in the position. That is a lie. That never happened once. Trump talks about it's a shame that the prosecutor got fired, talking about Shokin, the one that Biden got fired. He specifically says you might have bad people surrounding you to the president. The president says, don't worry, we control all the parliament as well. So I'm going to get a prosecutor put in that's going to be my person, and he or she will be very friendly with you. Never once does Trump say, hey, this guy Leshenko, you might want to keep him around. He's a good guy. He doesn't say that once. Nothing like that remotely ever comes up. Another lie. This was the document, secondhand knowledge that was used to start an impeachment investigation into Donald Trump. So far, we're through what, 3 paragraphs, and we got 3-4 lies. Because it turns out secondhand information, not that reliable, is it? So here we have another lie. It says, note, starting March 2019, Mr. Leshenko made a series of public allegations, many of which he later walked back, about the Biden family's activities in Ukraine. Ukrainian officials reported involvement in the 2016 election, the activities of the U.S. Embassy in Kiev. Okay. Trump never mentioned anything about Leshenko, and that all seems to be credible reasons. The head prosecutor in the Ukraine made all these claims. He didn't walk much of it back. That's a lie. But that's irrelevant to what's going on. Do you see what they're trying to do? He's trying to infer to the people. Trump said Leshenko could stay. Well, by the way, Leshenko's untrustworthy and falsely accused all of these Democrats of crimes. None of that remotely occurred in this call. All a lie. All designed by a partisan hack that's claiming to be a whistleblower to raise eyebrows and go, oh my God, Trump did that, and it was all a lie. Next, the White House officials told me this information were deeply disturbed by what had transpired in the call. Who cares? I'm deeply disturbed that Chuck Schumer, one of the leaders of the Democrat, admitted on national TV that if Trump criticized the intel communities, they would find a way to get back at them. So I don't really give a shit if they're deeply disturbed. How about that? They're partisan acts. I'm deeply disturbed that so many of the leaders of them turned out to break protocol and break the law to go after Donald Trump. Saying that anonymous people are disturbed, therefore you're a whistleblower, is crap. You remember when Trump said that a lot of people in the intel agency were ashamed of James Comey? And everyone said, that's ridiculous. Show us proof. Who are those people? That's a lie. But they're willing to say, oh, anonymous people were disturbed by what Trump was doing. See that double standard? Do you see how that works? They told me that there was already a discussion ongoing with White House lawyers about how to treat the call because of the likelihood and the officials' retelling that they had witnessed the president abuse his office for personal gain. That's not even them. That's not only just him reporting secondhand information. It's him inferring meaning from gossip of secondhand information. In other words, it's one thing to get secondhand information and I tell you, hey, I saw Jim steal that pencil. But that's bad enough that you're then reporting that as secondhand information because you didn't see it personally. But then imagine that I say, hey, I saw Jim stole that pencil and he stole it because really his family's broke and he needs pencils at home. Now, I'm not just reporting on a fact, I'm reporting my opinion on the fact, and you're reporting that opinion as a secondhand person listening to that as if it's true. As if that's the end-all be-all. So how do these people know that it was for president's personal gain? How does they know that he thought he abused his office? And this doesn't even make sense because the president even admitted. It's up to the president. He can have private one-on-one conversations if he wants. But instead he treated this like any other call to a foreign leader where there were 20-something people in the room that heard the call. So why would he be recommended breaking the law in front of these 20-something people when he's so distrustworthy anyways of the intel community? If he was really offering the quid pro quo that they're suggesting, he would have done it in a one-on-one call. And I'll get to this idea that he tried to hide the phone call later. That's becoming the big story out of this whistleblower complaint, which is absolutely insane. Next, the Ukrainian side was the first to publicly acknowledge the phone call on the evening of the 25th. A readout was posted on the website of the Ukrainian president that contained the following line. Donald Trump expressed his conviction that the new Ukrainian government will be able to quickly improve Ukraine's image and complete the investigation of corruption cases that have been held back by cooperation between Ukraine and the United States. Okay. Is it not in the purview of the President of the United States if there are investigations into corruption that the last administration, one, withheld $1 billion until they got the prosecutor they wanted for personal gain, allegedly, and second, used their influence to exert that cases that would be damaging to that party be dropped by the officials in the Ukraine? Is that not under the purview of the United States president to look into? Who's supposed to look into that then? Does that mean... Keep in mind what this means. That means that every investigation into possible abuse of Donald Trump, if it goes to a foreign country, would also be illegal. In other words, let's say the impeachment hearings continue, right? And let's say that there's a whistleblower that comes up from Ukraine and says, I have information. He calls Adam Schiff's office and says, I have information that actually Trump was doing a quid pro quo, and here's what it is. Schiff says, I'd love to hear that evidence. Schiff just broke the law because Schiff just said to a foreign leader, an official in a foreign country, that he wants investigations into a case of alleged corruption of his political opponent to be investigated. Do you see what I'm saying? You have, just take the names Trump and Obama out. Group A extorts a country, withholds $1 billion unless they insert a prosecutor that they want or remove a prosecutor they don't want. That prosecutor happened to be looking into the family member of one of the people in Group A. There are allegations in the Ukraine and investigations in the Ukraine that Group A improperly exerted authority on officials in the Ukraine to get them to drop investigations into people that were connected to Group A. Okay? Group B comes along and says, hey, we heard there was a lot of corruption going on with Group A. We heard that you people were investigating that potential corruption. Could you send us evidence of that? That's a crime for Group B to do, is what we're being told. Nope, sorry. Group A, you can't investigate Group A's corruption. Not allowed. Do you think after Trump's presidency, if, let's say, Warren wins in 2020, and she hears allegations that actually Trump was working inside Venezuela to break the law and to do things that could potentially personally benefit Trump, do you think then if she says, my goodness, I'm going to send I'm going to send people to get this information. I'm going to call the president of Venezuela and be like, hey, if you have evidence on this, we'd like to hear it. Do you think that these same media people are going to be going, oh my God, impeachment, this is terrible? Do you think there's going to be whistleblowers saying, wow, can you believe that Elizabeth Warren did this? No, they'll say she's doing her due diligence. Part of the executive branch's authority is to investigate potential crimes, particularly when it occurs overseas. That's why we have a Department of Justice that's in the executive branch. Justice, as in getting justice, investigating and prosecuting crimes. You're not immune from being investigated just because the person doing the investigating is now your political opponent. That's absurd. But that's the argument the Democrats are making. Moving on. Aside from the above-mentioned cases purportedly dealing with the Biden family in the 2016 election, I was told by White House officials that no other cases were discussed. Okay. They talked about corruption. Isn't that the two that would be prevalent to the... What are they supposed to... Oh, by the way, we heard that there was a case of, a cat burglar in the Ukraine. We'd like to discuss that. No, they're discussing cases that are relevant to interference in the 2016 election. And again, I was starting to say this earlier. I don't know if I finished my point. There are different ways to have interference into an election. There's different ways to have shady things. One of the ways is you could seek to get dirt on your opponent. Another way is you could get to seek dirt that will be released about you buried. Both of those are interfering in the 2016 election. If this prosecutor, as he claims, would have came through and started directly interrogating Hunter Biden and this became public knowledge, don't you think that hurts Hillary Clinton's chances in 2016? Oh, but it was just Biden, it wasn't Hillary. No, remember what the media's talking point was? Obama, scandal-free administration. Now all of a sudden, if you found out that Obama signed off on his vice president extorting a country to get a prosecutor looking into his son for possible corruption fired, that changes that narrative a lot. And don't forget, Hillary Clinton worked for that administration. So it would have been a damning narrative to the Democrats in 2016. So that's also election interference. And if you don't believe that, look at how they treated the idea. Remember when an extortionist by the name of Stormy Daniels came and said she'd signed a non-disclosure agreement because supposedly she had sex with Trump, and she came and said, I'm going to break that agreement and start talking unless you send me more money. And then Trump paid that money and they said, oh, this needs to be investigated. Because if that money came from campaign coffers, then that proves that it's some sort of crime because he sought to bury a bad story about himself for the 2016 election. Now imagine instead of using his own money, he had used taxpayer money to do that. Imagine that he'd used $1 billion of taxpayer money to bury a story into him and her, or his family that would have been embarrassing going into the election. Because that's what Biden did. So that's also, now that's what he's alleged. Maybe it's not true, but it's worth investigating, right? We had to have the investigation into Stormy Daniels, those claims, right? So why wouldn't there be a similar investigation here? That falls under the purview of 2016 election interference. A country burying a story for Biden and for the Democrats before the election. That falls into that purview. I thought we were supposed to be concerned about foreign election interference. But now, it's the biggest deal in the world. As long as that potential interference was sought to possibly help Donald Trump. If that interference was to help the Democrats, then it is a crime to look into it. Do you see? It's not just should we investigate, should we ignore, or should it be a crime to investigate? With Trump, if it's interference that could have benefited Trump, we're way over here as far as we could be. Investigate by any means necessary. Most important thing in the world. This is the most important thing. Trump stole an election. Trump might be a foreign spy. He was willing to accept foreign interference, right? So when we know, okay, allegations that the Democrats are supposed to do the same thing, well, we just ignore that? No, it's not even enough just to ignore it. We say to even look into it is a crime. I mean, that's unbelievable. And yet we have to believe that the Democrats are really concerned about foreign election interference. Those Russian trolls, man. Oh, man, we need to have meetings on Capitol Hill. We got to get to the bottom of these trolls. You know, those memes, they could have hurt Hillary Clinton. That's indefensible. How could this happen? Never mind that we now have a judge say that it was never directed by Putin. There's no proof of it. So just some random dozen trolls making memes. That was a huge deal. But the actual DNC and the Obama administration reaching out to the Ukraine to get dirt on Donald Trump that they then leaked to the press, that's not worth looking at. Or them trying to exert pressure on Ukrainian officials to bury investigations that would embarrass the Democrats, including one into the vice president's son. That's not reason to. That's criminal to want to investigate them. By the same token, then why wouldn't it be criminal for the Democrats that wanted to investigate election interference that helped Donald Trump? Why wouldn't it be criminal for them to do the same? And that's aside from the point that we actually have 3 Democratic senators that directly sent a letter to the Ukraine doing the exact same thing they're alleging Trump did. All right, moving on. Based on my understanding, there were approximately a dozen White House officials who listened to the call, a mixture of policy officials and duty officers in the White House Situation Room, as is customary. Exactly, it was a regular call. The officials I spoke with told me that the participation in the call had not been restricted in advance because everyone expected it to be a routine call. I do not know whether anyone was physically present with the president during the call. Okay? In addition, White House personnel, I was told that a State Department official, Mr. T. Ehrlich Brubick, also listened in on the call. Okay? I was not the only non-White House official to receive a readout of the call. Based on my understanding, multiple State Department and intelligence community officials were also briefed on the contents of the call as outlined above. Yeah, no other whistleblowers. Isn't that weird? Again, if Trump was doing something super shady and trying to break the law to influence the 2020 election, why would he do it in this way with everyone listening? It makes no sense. Second, effort, and this is the part that, oh my God, if you think I'm fired up now, this part, it just shows the incredible stupidity. And people eat this crap up. Okay, part 2. Efforts to restrict access to records related to the call. In the days following the phone call, I learned from multiple U.S. officials that senior White House officials had intervened to lock down all records of the phone call, especially the official word-for-word transcript of the call that was produced, as is customary by the White House Situation Room. This set of actions underscored to me the White House officials understood the gravity of what had transpired in the call. I'll get to it in here in a second. White House officials told me they were directed by White House lawyers to remove the electronic transcript from the computer system in which such transcripts are typically stored for coordination, finalization, and distribution to cabinet-level officials. Instead, the transcript was loaded into a separate electronic system that is otherwise used to store and handle classified information of an especially sensitive nature. One White House official described this act as abuse of this electronic system because the call did not contain anything remotely sensitive from a national security perspective. So this is the argument that this person's making and that the Democrats are seizing on now. Well, here's what proves the guilt. Trump has this phone call and then he says, well, I want this stored in a more secure government facility or server. That's it. That's somehow proof of his guilt. Why? Why would Trump do it? Well, he must have been hiding something. First off, if he blatantly broke the law, everyone that listened into that call is up to uphold the Constitution and would have, they admit dozens of people heard it. So they just spoke up. None of them did. This person that heard the information secondhand spoke up. Secondly, Trump probably did that because he's worried that members of the intel community will leak the contents of his call as they have before. And guess what? He was right, wasn't he? Yup. That's exactly what happened. The president has the authority to do whatever he wants with these call transcripts. He could burn them if he wants. He could release them to the public if he wants, which he did. He could lock them up where he wants. He could take them home with him. He is allowed to do that. That is not proof that he did anything illegal. And I already outed the end of the story. Drum roll, please. He released the transcript to the public. No president in history has done that. So the allegation is, whatever's in that transcript so damning, they have it locked up in a deep, dark place. He just released it. Yet the Democrats are out there today saying, well, he hid the transcripts. Surely that shows that he has something to hide. The transcript's out there. This is just like when the Democrats were freaking out. Well, the way Barr spun the Mueller report. Oh my God, the way Barr spun the Mueller report. Could you believe the way Barr spun the Mueller report? Hey, idiots, the Mueller report's out there. Who cares who spun it which way? If you have something to say about the report, read it your damn self and tell us what it is. It's the same with this transcript. Well, he put it in a more secure place. Okay, so what? Because he can't trust his own intel people. Because they leak, just like they have in the past, conversations that he makes. Now notice this doesn't say, have other conversations also been placed in that vault? We have no idea. We're just led to believe by this was unusual, so it must be something shady. Second-hand account saying that this must be shady. When we've now seen the transcript ourselves. And here's the kicker. Oh my God, this to me is the same people, presumably this same whistleblower, the same Democrats, the same media people that are telling us today, oh man, he moved it to a more secure government facility? That's shady. That's proof that something illegal went on. The same people had no problem with Hillary Clinton moving her stuff to a private, non-governmental server and deleting it. They said, oh, that's nothing. No, that doesn't prove anything. The media and the Democrats and this whistleblower are having us believe that now securing classified or confidential information in a more secured spot is somehow evidence of a crime. But taking that information out of all government servers so that they can't be accessed through Freedom of Information Act requests, having them on your private server and deleting them is not evidence of corruption or hiding evidence. You can't make this stuff up. It defies... I don't even know what to say. I mean, I've been saying for a while that the most ridiculous thing is the Democrats saying that Trump, who fired Comey because Rosenstein told him to fire him, and all the Democrats and Republicans were saying to fire him, and then groused about the Mueller investigation. That's obstruction of justice, they said. But Hillary Clinton deleting subpoenaed evidence wasn't. Her team deleting it. That was the most ridiculous thing. This is the new most ridiculous thing. Trump securing information in a more protected government server is evidence of a crime, but Hillary taking evidence from all government servers on a private one and then deleting it is not evidence of a cover-up. I mean, I don't even know. Like, you come up with hypothetical, like, slippery slope arguments like, well, if you say this, then in the future this could happen. That's it. That's the end of the slope. If Republicans put things in a more secure place, that's corrupt. If Democrats take things completely out of the government servers and destroy them, that's evidence of non-corruption. Number 3, ongoing concerns. On July 26th, a day after the call, U.S. Representative for the Ukraine negotiator Kurt Volker visited Kiev. Or I don't know how to, I think it's, I don't know, Kyiv or whatever. It's the capital city, I believe, in the Ukraine, and met with President Zelensky and a variety of Ukrainian political figures. Ambassador Volker was accompanied with his meetings by the U.S. Ambassador to the European Union, Gordon Sondland. Based on multiple readouts of these meetings recounted to me by various U.S. officials, Volker and Sondland reportedly provided advice to Ukrainian leadership about how to navigate the demands the president had made of Mr. Zelensky. I also, again, he has no first-hand knowledge. He's saying people that went to this told me what these people said. That's not a whistleblower. I've heard reports just like this. Oh, the ambassador allegedly said this to a... Does that make me a whistleblower because I heard? I also learned from multiple U.S. officials that on or about August 2nd, Mr. Giuliani reportedly traveled to Madrid to meet one of President Zelensky's advisors at Yermak. U.S. officials characterized the meeting, which was not reported publicly at the time, as direct follow-up to the president and Mr. Zelensky's call about the cases they had discussed. Okay? None of that proves a quid pro quo. That proves nothing. So what? President's attorney's allowed to meet with anyone he wants. Mills and Aberdeen, if Hillary was Secretary of State when they were her president, they're allowed to go to the Ukraine and say, hey, do you got dirt on Trump? They're allowed to do that. Or there's an investigation going here. That's opposition research. That's allowed. And if you look at why this is occurring, again, read John Solomon's reporting. He talks specifically about why this is occurring. Because the Ukraine had repeatedly tried to reach out to the United States and get this evidence to them. But they didn't trust the FBI because they knew the FBI was corrupt and was part of the Obama administration's efforts to influence Ukrainian prosecutors and have cases dropped. And so they tried to get passports, but the U.S. State Department wouldn't give them give them visas to directly hand deliver the mail. So then they tried to reach out to the New York Attorney General's office, who also wouldn't take the evidence. So finally, they reached out directly to the State Department and came to the conclusion that they would have some of Zelensky's attorneys meet with some of Trump's attorneys and give this evidence and have a conversation about what the potential evidence would be. Now, this makes sense when you consider both Trump and Zelensky are in a similar position. Both are facing massive amounts of corruption directed directly at them. Zelensky was a stand-up comedian who won the election because he basically just ran on how corrupt the Ukrainian government was, and he was going to oust that corruption. So he doesn't trust people around him. That's why he's saying, I got to get rid of these prosecutors. I got to get rid of everyone and get until he says in the transcript, in September, I'll have my own people that I can trust. But until then, he trusts his attorney. So he has his attorney talk with someone that they think they can trust, which is Trump's attorney. Again, remember in the transcript, it was Zelensky that first mentioned Giuliani, not Trump. So they're saying, okay, there was a meeting on this. What does that prove of anything? That would be like saying, oh, well, Obama reached out to Ukrainian officials to try to get evidence against Paul Manafort. And then one of the people in the Obama administration actually met. Oh, that proves the corruption. No, that doesn't prove anything. If asking about the investigation in the first place wasn't corrupt, then following through is not corrupt. So all that matters is the initial phone call. The fact that, yeah, and they did meet, that means nothing. Separately, multiple U.S. officials told me that Mr. Giuliani had reportedly privately reached out to a variety of Zelensky advisors, including the chief of staff, chairman of the security service. Okay, I don't know whether those officials met or spoke with Giuliani. No kidding. But I was told separately by U.S. officials that Yermak and Bakanov intended to travel to Washington in mid-August. Okay, but they didn't, I don't think. What is that proof of anything? Again, it's just you slap enough stuff on the wall and then it looks impressive. Oh, I didn't hear the conversation, but I heard from people and then meetings occurred, so. On August 9th, the president told reporters, I think President Zelensky is going to make a deal with President Putin, and he'll be invited to the White House. And we look forward to seeing him. He's already been invited to the White House, and he wants to come, and I think he will. He's a very reasonable guy. He wants to see peace in the Ukraine, and I think he'll be coming very soon, actually. Okay, why is that included in this whistleblower report as if that's something shady? Do you see how stupid this is? Circumstances leading up to the call. And I'm basically going to stop here. Because what this is it's just, you could read through it yourself. It's just him going through it saying, I'll just start reading. Beginning in late March 2019, a series of articles appeared in The Hill. Okay. In several public comments, Leshenko said, okay. This is all garbage. On May 9th, the New York Times reported, okay. What does this have anything to do? On June 13th, the president told ABC's George Stephanopoulos. On June 21st, Giuliani tweeted, in mid-July, there was a policy change. That's all garbage. He's citing the media as proof of somehow this is something shady that occurred. Let me make my beautiful face bigger now. What? I'm fat enough. I don't think I need to. Do you see that? Do you see the insanity of this? Just like with the Pfizer report. So you take a news story. Imagine if this went the other way. Why can't Trump be like, well, according to John Solomon in the Hill, actually, Biden wanted pressured the Ukraine into investigating his son, or to dropping the investigation into his son. Therefore, I'm justified in doing X, Y, and Z. Could a whistleblower right now blow that up? Could a whistleblower in, let's say there's a whistleblower in Adam Schiff's office that says, actually, I read in the Hill, according to the Hill, Joe Biden was exerting pressure to get the investigation into his son taken out. So I'm a whistleblower. I heard secondhand Peter Schiff talking to a bunch of people saying that they wanted to bring Trump down and they wanted to bury the investigation into Biden's son. So investigate. Let's release all the transcripts that Schiff has as anyone he talked to. Right? That's the standard. That's what we've set. Now, the only other thing that I want to talk about right now, and I might be doing live streams or videos later, so if you're bored and you still want to hear my beautiful voice, someday maybe I'll sing for you all. I'm quite the karaoke champion in my local town here, so who knows? Maybe I'll get around to doing that for you all. But the last thing I want to mention is, so there was a committee meeting today, and the Director of National Intelligence spoke in front of Schiff's committee, and what they're alleging, what the entire committee meeting was alleging is, so you have an IG, and don't be fooled, this IG, the Intelligent Inspector General, is different than the Inspector General that's looking into, his name's Horowitz, that's looking into the FISA abuse scandals and looked into Comey's abuses and things like that. It's two different IGs. So what had happened was, you had this whistleblower complaint, and then it goes to the Intelligence Inspector General. The Intelligence Inspector General says, I feel that the allegations rise to the level of seriousness that it needs to proceed further. So the Office of the Director of National Intelligence and the DOJ looks at this and they say, look, we looked into the person that's the whistleblower. They're partisan. We think that they have an axe to grind. They said it in more clever terms than that. And they also said that they didn't feel that this was... They felt that it would be a violation of executive privilege to give this information over to Congress because it has to do with the president's private phone calls. And so there was a holdup, right? There was a debate about whether or not this should go. And the holdup was what, a week, maybe? But again, just like with the Trump put his transcript in a more secure place, ultimately at the end of the day, Trump was more transparent than any president before him. It might have taken a week, but finally it was like, fine, release the whistleblower complaint, release the transcript, allow the whistleblower to testify if he wants. They released everything, even to the public. So what's the complaint? But that's what the complaint was today. It was Adam Schiff and all them wagging their finger at the DNI. You did something corrupt. You withheld this from us. And the DNI's like, look, I just follow the laws. The laws on executive privilege are quite clear. And he goes directly through. He's like, this is exactly why. Because this wasn't an intelligence matter. It had to do with the president's personal call. And then it falls under the category of executive privilege, which means until I have permission by the executive to release this information, I can't. But now it's released, so why are we spending this time? Is your beef really that it took you 4 more days to get this? Is that it? Because if that's a beef worthy of getting upset about, how upset must we be who are still waiting for the FBI to release documents into their investigation into Russia? Somehow Schiff and the Democrats never had a problem with that. They don't have a problem with the intel community stonewalling for years on end before they release evidence. But God, if they had to wait 4 days, that's the end of the world. So that was it. They're just wagging their finger. And they keep asking the DNI, like, don't you think these were serious allegations? And he's like, yeah, I guess it's serious allegation. That doesn't mean the allegations are true. Again, this is the exact same crap we saw with the Russia investigation. Well, we have, no matter if it doesn't matter that it was paid opposition research that was never verified. The allegation was so serious that we needed an investigation. Okay, well, the allegation that Joe Biden extorted the Ukraine based on his own comments through $1 billion, unless they got the prosecutor fired that was looking into his son. That's all proven. But the allegation that was for personal benefit, isn't that? Oh man, that's a very serious allegation. That's very important. So does that mean we should have an investigation? No, they don't think so because they say there's no proof. So when it benefits them, they say it doesn't matter if we break protocol. It doesn't matter if we break the rules. If the allegation is serious, we have to take it serious and we have to investigate. No matter how nonsensical it is, we have to take it serious. But if it's about the Democrats, how dare you look into allegations? It's a crime to look into those allegations, even if they're serious allegations. But then the coup de grace. Not only do the Democrats make themselves look like a fool, this DNI, who by no means did I get a vibe that like he's out there stonewalling for Trump. He seemed like an official that was on the up and up to me. Granted, I just saw a little bit of it, but the Democrats, one after another, are just treating him like they have such contempt. They're so seething. The way they deal with witnesses they don't like. They're so arrogant. And they just go after this guy. You know, he was a Navy SEAL for 30 years. Over and over, they're just going after him. And he's just like, I don't know what you want from me. You know? I don't do... You know? He's just, okay, yeah, it was a serious allegation. Yeah, okay. You know, and it goes on and on. So if that wasn't bad enough, and they made total fools of themselves, and they're going after all this, the whistleblower complaint they're taking so seriously. Remember, every single American who read the transcript knows more than this whistleblower, because the whistleblower, when he wrote this complaint, didn't even see the transcript. And I went through how many times he was wrong, or she. But here's the coup de grace. Schiff starts off his comments reading President Trump's comments from the transcript. And he just flat starts making stuff up. Don't call us back until you've done what I demanded of you. Just adding words in over and over to make Trump look bad. This is going out live. Americans are watching this. My God, Trump said these things? Republican speaks. He says, I can't believe what I just heard. Adam Schiff has the transcript right in front of him, and he's making crap up. Trump never said this stuff. And Schiff says, well, I was just parodying it. Parodying it. Now, they're telling us this is a crisis of our Constitution. The fate of our country is at stake. And this guy's up there telling jokes that might be misinterpreted to make Trump look like he's guilty when he's not. I don't even know how to... That's unbelievable. Every day something more happens and you're like, they can't get any worse. It can't get any worse. We had 200 Democrats and almost the entire mainstream media call for the impeachment of a president based on secondhand information from a whistleblower on a transcript that neither he nor they had seen. I heard from other people Trump said some really bad stuff in the transcript. Then Trump says, okay, I'm going to release the transcript. And the Democrat response is, well, impeach. We don't need to see the transcript. I didn't think it could get more insane than that. But having the leader of this committee, a Democrat, that's saying this is the most important thing, that lied to us about seeing proof that Trump was a Russian stooge and worked with Russians to steal the 2016 election. He lied to us for 2 years about that. I've seen the evidence. I've seen the proof. Trust me, Mueller's going to find him guilty. That was a lie. He gets in front of his committee that he's leading and starts reading from the transcript and inserts words that Trump never said and said, oh, it was all a joke. I was just being satirical. It was just a parody. I don't even know how to respond to that. What if Trump starts saying that? I lied. Yeah, you were in front of Congress, right? Yep. And you just lied. You said that someone said things they never said. Yep. Okay, you lied to Congress. Yep. Well, that's terrible. Oh, no. It was a parody. Oh, good one, Mr. Trump. You think that's how that would go? I mean, this is unbelievable. This is, I can't believe. And the Republicans are terrible. They're not competent enough to get out in front of this story. Start issuing subpoenas. Investigate Joe Biden. Get to the bottom of it. They're covering it up. What this is about is, and this is the last thing I'll say, and then I'll let you all go because you're probably getting tired of hearing me anyways. But part of this is take down Trump by any means necessary. They're afraid they're not going to win the 2020 election because they don't have anything to run on. But the big part of it is they know what's coming in the IG report, and they know the corruption it's going to show. And so this acts as not only a distraction, but it acts as a defense of them because it's actually a brilliant ploy. They know, for example, this is what they'll say. Your gut feeling when you hear this, and I said it several times here, is like, but wait a minute. So they're saying that it's illegal for a president to go to a foreign country and get evidence of a crime of someone in the other political party. And so then us defending Trump will be like, but that's absurd. That's what Obama did. So then when the IG report comes out and shows the abuses of the Obama administration, they'll say, but wait a minute, you just said in defense of Trump that Trump did the same thing Obama did. So if Obama's guilty, then that means Trump's guilty as well. That's what they're going to try to do. But what they fail to realize is Trump did something similar to what Obama did, but Obama did it way worse. That's what makes Obama guilty and not Trump. Because Trump is asking for actual physical evidence into an ongoing investigation that's occurring in the Ukraine and in the United States about potential election interference into the 2016 election. The Obama administration was sending spies out, wiretapping people based on unverified information they got from Kremlin sources to accuse Trump of getting information from Kremlin sources. Do you see the difference? They were violating Americans' Fourth Amendment rights. They went to a FISA court and lied and said the information was verified when it wasn't. The information was gained from Kremlin sources. They sent spies to spy on George Papadopoulos. We're going to find out that Joseph Mifsud, who is the supposed Russian intelligence asset that started the whole investigation by giving Papadopoulos information that Russians had emails on Hillary, actually was a Western intelligence service. That's the crimes. It wouldn't have been a crime for Obama to just be like, oh, there's an ongoing investigation into Paul Manafort and the Ukraine might have evidence of it, so we're going to work with them. That's not a crime. That's what Trump did. That's not a crime. The crime would be, then we're not going to verify that evidence and use it to spy on people connected to that person, who happens to be our political opponent. Then we're going to leak information of that to the press to help us in the election. That's the crime. But that's strategically what's going on. It's to distract from the IG report and to set up a defense for when it comes out. And it's also a benefit to them that the progressives don't mind this because they feel that ultimately, if it blows up in their face, they can scapegoat Joe Biden and everything will be fine. But again, as I've been saying all week, this is not a Joe Biden scandal. It is. He's a big part of it. It's not just Hunter Biden being corrupt. That's where the start of it is. That's not all that's going on. It's also Joe Biden covering up for it, but that's not all. It's also the Democrats reaching out to the Ukraine to get foreign election interference in the 2016 election. But it's not just that. It's also Obama signing off on all of that. Maybe not the latter part, but definitely signing off on Biden. Biden admits it in his speech. Call Obama. He told me to withhold this billion. But it's more than that. It is an indictment of the entire DNC. I don't mean the Democrat down the street that's your friend. I don't mean the guy in your city council. I mean the leadership of the DNC and the mainstream media. Because they have buried this story for 3 years. And now they're accusing Trump of doing the very same things that are in this story, except less as bad, and saying that it's a horrible crime. So by their own admission, if they really believe this is a crime, they covered up a crime for 3 years. The media, the Democrats. That's the real thing. Elizabeth, for example, I've had friends tell me, oh, this is good. I'm a Democrat. It's good. Leave and burn down Biden. Hopefully it just becomes Warren then. Warren was asked yesterday, hey, you have this big anti-corruption push, right? Yes. Would you allow the son of your vice president to sit on a board of a corrupt oligarch? And she's like, I would have to look into the case. You'd have to look into it. You haven't already? Are you kidding me? That's corruption from Warren. She's saying, I don't mind corruption on my side. That's what she's saying. So, I know I've said the last thing I'll say, but this is really the last thing I'd say. Everybody, look into John Solomon from The Hill. Just type into your Google or DuckDuckGo, or I would prefer DuckDuckGo, whatever search engine. Type in The Hill, go to thehill.com, and then type in John Solomon, Ukraine. And read all of his articles on the Ukraine from going back, at least as far back as April of this year. But even further back, a lot of it. It's a damning case. And look for Solomon's new article today. He said on Hannity that he's going to release 450, well, he has, and he's going to release some, 450 pages of documents that prove that Joe Biden's claim that he didn't know that there was an investigation going into his son, and that investigation was over, and that it was just about pressuring them to fire a corrupt prosecutor, that claim is a lie. Included in these documents are not only from U.S. officials, from Ukrainian officials that gave this information on the record to John Solomon, but also from Hunter Biden's own lawyers. Now, if this turns out to be true, and Solomon says he's releasing it today, every media outlet this entire week's been saying, Trump was pushing the conspiracy about Joe Biden. The conspiracy about Joe Biden. The New York, this has already been looked into about Joe Biden, and they found no evidence of guilt. The investigation was done, and Joe Biden's been looked into. There's no guilt. It's just a conspiracy theory talking about Joe Biden. Trump's pushing a conspiracy theory about Joe Biden. It's been looked into about Joe Biden. That's all you heard all week from the media. And if these allegations are true, whoops! Once more, the media, oh, it's not our fault. Still trust us. We're still good guys. We're not hacks. I mean, yeah, we've been saying for 3 years that we looked into this and there was nothing to it. And it turns out that even a cursory glance would have showed there was. But please trust us this time. Oh, we're the Democratic leaders. Yes. Oh, our bad. If push comes to shove, we'll say what Biden did was bad, but it's nothing on us. We didn't know about any of this information. Yes, you did. It's been public knowledge. You covered it up. You went so far as to say Trump looking into it was a crime that deserved impeachment. So when it blows up in your face, you're going to have to explain to the American people why Trump should be impeached for trying to look into a crime that you all tried to cover up for 3 years. Are we in 1984 yet? War is peace? Peace? War is peace. War is peace? The truth is a lie? 2 + 2 = 5? Covering up corruption is noble to the Democrats, but investigating that corruption is a crime and impeachable. That is literally the stance of the Democrats today as we stand. So don't let them get out of it and say, oh, it's just Joe Biden. It was just Joe and Hunter Biden. He'll drop out and that's it. No, it's corruption the whole way through. By the way, the same corrupt people that pushed the Russia witch hunt. It has been obvious from day one that they had no intention of leaving this president govern. They had no intention of saying, okay, we lost, we'll get him in 2020. None. It's been stymieing him using criminal lies and investigation and leaks to the press and spying on him and smears. The most unethical, disgusting stuff we have ever seen in politics, done by people at the intel community. We were told by Chuck Schumer they would do this. You can't criticize the intel community. This should piss off every American, even if you hate Trump. Do you really think that you're going to, after this, if nothing changes, do you really think that you're going to get someone who really cares about you and not the establishment on the Democrat side? You don't think that the intel agencies would take them down too? So the only choice you'll be left with is people that the establishment favor. You're going to get the Mitt Romneys of the world and the Hillary Clintons of the world and the Elizabeth Warrens of the world that ain't going to do crap that all these progressives think they want. Sure, they'll give lip service and they'll crease division based on gender and sex and sexual preference and, skin color and religion. Yeah, they'll push all that crap of the progressives. But when it comes to the big stuff, bailing out the bankers or the foreign wars, all that crap's going to stay. There can't be a Democrat that's against the intel community. The same intel community that all these Democrats told me, shame on us for listening to them for the Iraq war. They're liars. They're warmongers. They got us into this war. Now they're saying, we're for them. We're glad they're corrupt and trying to take down Trump over and over again. Surely they won't do it to our candidate next time. Unbelievable. The stupidity is unbelievable. People read that transcript yesterday. I told people this is the Republicans' mistake. They won't prosecute people. They won't investigate crimes of themselves. They're gutless. Instead, they say, if we just get the information out there, that's enough. Just getting the information out there is enough. No, it's not, because the entire conversation is dominated by the establishment Democrats. To the point where James Comey can be referred to by criminal prosecution from the IG, who says that in unprecedented ways he broke FBI protocol, and Comey could go on Twitter and laugh and say, vindicated. The exact opposite of what the IG report said. It said how guilty he was and how terrible he was. But Comey knows they got his back, man. He took the hit to help Hillary Clinton and to help the Democrats and to help bring down Trump. So the media said, yay, no crime. It doesn't look great for Comey, but no crimes. Anyways, moving on to the next story. Trump used a Sharpie today. That's where we're at here. So, yeah, I mean, it's a big story. I might put more stuff out later today. I'm going to leave my dogs out and head out here for a while. But thanks, everyone, for listening in. Look for me to put more material out. Follow me on Twitter at NorRobert at Twitter and at BitChute at Robert Nor there. I would really appreciate it. If you could recommend my videos too, I would really appreciate that. I think that I don't know. I guess I'm conceited. I think I cover things in a way. I would say my specialty is trying to explain things to people that aren't necessarily have as much time as me to look into this stuff. When I talk to the guy at the bar, Like, it's easy for me to be like, oh, well, they said actually the statute for having a private server and taking classified information, it requires things of intent. So if you read this law and this law, like, the guy at the bar doesn't care about that. What? It's too much. You just put it real simple. Hey, they subpoenaed evidence from Hillary Clinton's team and they destroyed it. Or, hey, so there was this Joe Biden's son was being investigated for corruption, and his dad threatened the country with $1 billion unless they fired the prosecutor looking into him. Wow, that sounds pretty crappy. Yep. And then Trump was looking into that, and he told the new Ukrainian president who got elected based on fighting corruption, hey, that seemed like a really corrupt thing. You should investigate it. And that Ukrainian president said, yep, I agree with it. And the Democrats in America, along with almost the entire media, said that that was a crime for Trump to do that and that he should be impeached. You have to explain things in a way, and it's not that people are stupid, it's that they don't have time to look at the ins and outs of this. So I think that I'm really good in that. So anyways, just a little bit about myself. So if you really could share my videos, I'd really appreciate it. And the more that I get out there and doing stuff, the more that I'll be effective in not only getting the message out, but being able to put up more material. Because as it is right now, I work like 70-something hours a week, but I'm going to try to run for political office and help people running for political office in the future. So the more effectiveness I have with stuff like this, the more I'll be able to put out more material. So thanks a lot, everyone. I really appreciate it. And I'll be putting more stuff out today. So have a good one.